It is in the stillness that you will find your answers. You can witness the thoughts that are sabotaging you. You can also connect with the endless source of energy that exists in the universe. And awareness and insight will come through that will help bring a level of consciousness where you have more understanding for why things are happening the way that they're happening.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and what it is you're doing.
My name is Kelsey. I grew up in a small town called Brandon, Manitoba. When I was growing up, it felt small anyways. I had what I thought was a pretty normal life. I went to college for a year, got a full-time job with the government, and stayed there for 13 years before leaving my 9-to-5 to start my business. I am an energy healer and spiritual mentor. And my journey to this transpired very naturally. It's not something I ever thought that I would do, but it came through a lot of pain and suffering, and I was guided to it. And this journey is exactly why I do what I do now and is guiding my path forward in everything that I do.
And why is it you wanted to share your story on the perspective shift?
I really want to share my story today because I've been through a lot of challenges, like so many people. And as I was in those challenges, I felt very isolated. I felt very alone. I felt broken. I felt desperate. And being on this side of it, feeling more capable than ever, feeling more grounded than ever, more at peace, I want to provide support to people who feel like that, even if it's just in the sense of sharing my story and letting people know that they're not alone. They don't have to do it alone. They are loved, and just providing that piece of hope that I feel like I didn't have when I was going through my challenges.
I can share that sentiment. For the people that are listening, what would you say was the biggest perspective shift that you had that guided you out of the previous state you were in?
My shift happened when I wound up in a crisis center. I had been battling with anxiety and panic attacks and night terrors for years. Actually, since I was in high school, that's kind of when the depression and the anxiety started. But later in my 20s, it really amplified. And I started having panic attacks and night terrors like multiple times a week. It got to the point where I was very afraid for my life because I didn't want to exist anymore. I'd had that feeling kind of on and off for years, but it really got to a point where it felt real.
Mm.
And I remember the day so vividly. I'd moved to start a new job, and the first 2 days I was there, it was like every hour, every minute, I was fighting off anxiety and a panic attack. I was crying like all day. It felt like I was meant to take this job, but like, I'm not okay. And on the third day, I was just like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not taking this job. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I guess I'm just going to quit and figure it out. And luckily, I had a previous relationship with the manager that I was working for, because I just transferred from one government position to a different one in a different town, but still the same department. And so we had already had a relationship prior to me receiving this job. And I just told her, I'm like, she knew I was going through a lot. And I said, look, I can't do this. She knew I was having panic attacks all day and was just like, you need to go to this crisis center. So my parents took me. They were luckily in town visiting still. And so they took me to this crisis center, and nothing really shifted in that moment. I definitely felt a level of care that I had not been willing to accept previously. You know, I felt like, oh, I've got this. I'm just going to be strong. I'm going to push through. And, you know, I had been in therapy for years. I'd been in a natural path. I started meditating, journaling, doing yoga and exercise. I changed my whole lifestyle. But I'd never sought out medication because my own personal journey. Earlier in my 20s, I actually got very dependent on painkillers to help me with chronic pain from a car accident I was in. And so my journey just led me down this path to not wanting to really use medication if I didn't have to. And yeah, I felt like I could just push through, but here I was in the crisis center feeling like I'm willing and finally able to receive that help. And we did this intake. It was great. The people were very supportive, very loving, very caring. Yeah, they suggested that I go on some medication. And the thing that really spoke to me in this conversation, because I talked to my doctor about medication before, and what they said to me in the room there was actually just reassurance that it didn't mean that I was going to be on this medication forever. Mm-hmm. They just said, look, your nervous system is so heightened right now. You need something to help bring you back down to a stable level where you can, like, you've done so much work. Mm-hmm. This is just going to take the edge off. It's going to allow you to implement all the tools and things that you've already been doing in your life. And that really resonated with me for the first time, somebody being like, this isn't just the answer. You know, it didn't feel like they were just trying to like, oh, just take medication, you'll be fine. No, it felt like they were like, yeah, I understand your concerns with medication, and I understand that you don't want to depend on it. And also, it can really help you right now just to find stability again. And I said, okay, I like the way you said that. I could do that. I'll give it a few months. And so the idea was to go on this medication for a few months and to stay in contact with my doctor about like how I'm feeling and dosage and all that kind of stuff. And so I actually moved back in with my parents. So they lived 2 hours away from where I had taken this job. And I just was like, yeah, I can't do this. So I worked out of my previous office, lived with my parents for a while. I did peer support. They had some sort of program that I was doing weekly that was all about somatics and stuff like that, stuff that I'd already taken, but it was good to just have that weekly kind of thing to really ground me and set my focus. So that was good. But what shifted things for me more than ever were two things. The biggest thing was I discovered this book. It was called The Emotion Code. And it talked about how emotions are energy. And when we aren't able to process our emotions, they can actually get stuck in the body and create blocks and actually are at the root of all of our symptoms. And they had tons of stories and testimonials in there. And they have a full page of symptoms that energy blockages could be at the root of. And it was like, oh yeah, anxiety, depression, back pain, insomnia, all sorts of things that I struggled with and that I see so many people struggle with. And prior to that, I had no idea what energy healing really was. Like I was starting to dabble with spirituality a little bit, but it was very new to me. And so I was like, well, I don't know. This seems pretty convincing. And look at where I am. I may as well give this a shot. Something was just calling me to it. I don't even remember how I found the book. I just came across it. It was like I was divinely guided to this book. And so I decided to learn this method of energy healing. And I started working on myself, releasing emotions. So I would find an emotion. They have this chart of like 60 emotions. You use muscle testing to determine which emotion, at what age, and what the event was. And I just started clearing emotions from myself. I didn't know if it was working or not. I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't know if like my mind is getting in the way, whatever. I just, I thought, well, why not try? So I did. And 3 months later, I was moving into my own apartment. I felt capable enough of living on my own again. And it was like, wow, this just shifted like so fast. Like, what just happened? And for sure, when I moved in, I remember the first night, I definitely was emotional. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm anxious, also just emotional that like I was just in the crisis center, like scared for my life. And now I feel like there's this hope and like I see things shifting and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just wild. And also like,
did you feel empowered?
I certainly felt empowered and also just almost like, man, I don't know what this shift is. It's amazing and also kind of scary at the same time because it's like the unknown for somebody who's got anxiety is very scary.
Mm.
And so I was very emotional, but like, I've got this kind of thing. And certainly there are base levels of anxiety for, the average person. It's built into us as humans. But I continued working on myself and
continued working on yourself through releasing emotions and learning more about the emotion
through the energy work. Yeah, I just kept using it to release emotions relating to anxiety and depression. And, it's all about how you ask your subconscious these questions to find what's creating these blocks. And so I just started asking more questions, finding more emotions, and even working on things like I would get a headache and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to use this energy work to clear my headache. And the relief was instant. And what I noticed was I started noticing like, okay, when I was getting headaches, well, what just happened? It was, I just had like an emotional encounter with somebody and then I would get a headache and then I just wasn't very good at acknowledging those emotions and moving through them. I was quick to kind of just shut them down or be like, yeah, okay, I get it, and then move on. I didn't really understand how to process my emotions. And so it would show up as a headache and then I'd go in, I'd use this energy work. I would acknowledge that it was betrayal or heartache, insecurity, whatever it was. And I would release it and then the headache would be gone. And so I just continued using this method and just, wow, just seeing the shifts happen. A little less than a year later, I ended up moving back to the city where I'd taken that job. And it just felt like, wow, a year later, like a year ago, I wound up in the crisis center trying to do this. And now here I am.
If you could state a perspective looking back or even now, what do you think the perspective is that you're holding that allowed you to give yourself that shot and to work with the energy of your emotions? What's the actual perspective that you were holding?
Well, I know for a very long time, the more I do energy work, I realize how ingrained beliefs and everything are in us. And I have this belief that life is unsafe, that.
So that was the belief, the previous belief, or that's the current belief?
That was the previous belief. Life is unsafe. Everything just felt unsafe.
Everything felt unsafe. And when you were going through that, did you realize that you held that perspective?
I think a little bit, but I wasn't very conscious to it. I knew how I felt. I knew that I was anxious. I was trying to control everything, and I was trying to create this external safety. And although I had it, I had a good job, I had a partner, I had a home and friends and routines, and I played sports and I did all these things. And on the outside, it looked like I had a good life, but internally I was just suffering so much. And that's in my late 20s, and the anxiety, the depression, it just got worse and worse despite having external safety or stability. And what I realize now is that really what was going on is there was a huge disconnect between me and my soul.
If I could make sure I understand what you're saying, it sounded like you had an internal disconnect with your soul of safety, and you were utilizing external circumstances to create that feeling of safety.
Yeah. But my subconscious obviously still felt like external safety isn't going to get you where you want to be. You're so disconnected from yourself, from your purpose, from who you're meant to be, and I feel like as I started, well, first off, energetically, when you're releasing emotional energy, we are energy beings. And as you're releasing that, it restabilizes you on an quantum energetic level, right? Like energy is real, and we often build up all these emotions. It creates this new baseline for us. And our nervous system is like, okay, here's the new baseline. But as I'm releasing all this energy, I started creating a new baseline for my nervous system. So that was huge, but also reconnecting with myself, because at the same time as I got that job, I also just got out of a 7-year relationship. And that, I think, was a catalyst for the panic attacks to just significantly increase. I thought that, this person and I didn't see a future without them. And so that was a huge turning point for me, just the way that all played out. And so there were a lot of things. Like I'd lived in the same town my entire life. So not only did I go through a breakup from a 7-year relationship, we were ending the relationship still. I mean, I still loved him. There was a lot of respect, I thought, still. And it's just not working. And then I was leaving my job to start a new job, which I had had the same job for 12 years. And I moved for the first time in my life. And so all these things piled up for sure to create the scenario where I ended up in the crisis center. But moving to Winnipeg, I had started dating somebody, and I ended up moving to Winnipeg, which is 2 hours from where I grew up in Brandon. And yeah, it felt a little scary, but also not so much because I wasn't doing it alone.
At that point, if I'm understanding correctly, you had been doing some of that emotion code work.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so you had that new baseline, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like when you worked on releasing and actually moving through emotions, that created that new baseline, and it was actually an internal baseline of safety.
Yeah, although now, being where I am now, I'm realizing that it all comes in layers because there's still new layers of safety that feel really, really challenging to me. So I had moved a year after being in the crisis center. I left my 9-to-5 to start my business and had no clients at the time. I thought my partner was going to be there to support me, but we ended up separating at the same time. So I essentially left my government job to start my business. And I also moved across the country to go stay with my sister for the summer in Alberta. And I was like, looking back, it's funny how I'm like, oh, this is the same pattern of leaving a job, end of a relationship, moving. I'm like, holy crap.
So I guess the question I have here is, even though a pattern is familiar and is showing up again, with your perspective shift on the emotions and being able to release them and move through them, do you feel like you are better equipped and capable of handling the situation?
Yes, 100%. And not just because of the energy work that I was doing, but I also started studying the spiritual wisdom of Kabbalah.
Oh.
And Kabbalah really resonates with the energy work that I was doing because they see the creator, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, as this never-ending field of consciousness that we are all connected to and part of. It is not somebody in the sky that we worship to. It is this field of consciousness that has always been there, that will always be there, that we are always connected to. They talk a lot about these energy dynamics of giving and receiving and of certainty and of lack, just like how all of these emotions, all of these things hold a certain energy. And what kind of energy do you want to be in? How do you manifest the energy that you want? And so I started studying that, which has been incredibly helpful. And the more that I study it, actually, the more I realize so many people are talking about this. And Kabbalah isn't a religion. Actually, people from every religion study the spiritual wisdom of Kabbalah, or even atheists study Kabbalah as well. So it just helped me understand the dynamics that were going on energetically. But like I said, the more I started studying, the more I got into this spiritual realm, which really didn't start happening until I had gone into the crisis center. The more I just realized that it's all energy. It all kind of ties together. And how we are souls, which are energy beings, and there's different frequencies, and it's like everything already exists. You just got to tap into the right frequency or the frequency that you want and all these things. And so definitely
that was like a pretty big shift.
Yes.
That sounds like a huge perspective difference.
that is definitely where this, like between the energy work and the studying of Kabbalah, there was a huge perspective shift. So I had only been studying Kabbalah really for 6-8 months before I had left my 9 to 5.
Mm.
And there was it was like when I left my 9 to 5, there was this really profound voice that came into my head of like, you have to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just jump and I'll catch you. And I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't, and that like this energy work, like, took away all my fears. No, energy healing is not going to take away your fears. Energy healing can release all the backlog that are causing your symptoms. It can help you rewire your beliefs. It can do so many amazing things, but we still have free will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to choose in that moment, am I going to, succumb to my fear, or am I going to trust this intuition, this voice that was the loudest voice I'd ever heard in my life? And it felt like I knew it was the right thing, but it was so scary. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And so, yeah, my partner and I, we separated. I went to stay with my sister for a few months, and I thought I was going to, build my business. But I quickly realized, I'm like, oh no, I got some healing to do before I actually start helping others. Like, I've got a lot to do. And so, yes, I noticed, I'm like, oh wow, this is like the same pattern happening again. And that did not make me feel like I had gone backwards. It didn't make me feel like, oh, I'm in the same place again. No, I recognized how much more capable I was in that moment compared to 2 years prior, when I wound up in the crisis center. And sometimes I'm realizing these patterns recur to teach us that, to give us perspective of like, look at how much you've grown. Look at how capable you are.
Yeah.
Look at what's come of this.
Yes.
Not of like, it's an opportunity to see that shift and to follow through with this new energy that you've cultivated. And so that was beautiful in itself. And this last year of growing my business, wow, like I've done so much. It's not at all what I thought this first year was going to look like. I've kind of gone off in so many different directions, and it's been so challenging. I've gotten burnt out. I have felt helpless. I have felt like I was in lack and scarcity, and like I think every couple days when I first left my 9 to 5, I was like, I can't do this. I need to go back. I need to go back to my job. What did I do? And yeah, it was very scary, but I had now spiritual wisdom that I could lean on, and I had energy work that I could also use to help me through processing everything that I was going through. And really, that moment in time helped me to get even deeper into this spiritual realm that I was kind of like starting to connect with. And actually, I think I was wrong. I think it had been 1.5 years I was studying Kabbalah before I had left my 9 to 5, not 6 months. And yeah, I started connecting more and more with myself. Who am I truly, and who do I want to be? And feeling like I was divinely guided to this energy work, and being like, well, I know that working for the government, this is not my calling. I'm meant to show up differently in the world, and just following the thing that lit me up the most.
And would you say that you know where this is going?
No, not at all. Not even a little bit. No. And you know what? I think there's so much freedom in that. Like, what your mind can conceive of is nothing compared to what the universe, what the Creator has in store for you. Like, truly, your mind is so limited. Your perception is so small. I've just decided that I don't know anything. And the more curious I get, actually, the more fun life gets.
It sounds like I'm hearing like a lot of little perspective shifts in here that are all connected, for sure.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. I'm like going to write a book one day about all of it. But yeah, I think when you can just let go of thinking that you have it all figured out, that you know best, you really just open the door for so much more.
if someone isn't going to, if they're going to let go and say, okay, I don't have a plan and I don't know best, then what is it that they do need to listen to?
Their intuition, which takes time to cultivate. Your intuition really is just that connection with the unlimited consciousness that exists. And cultivating that takes time. It takes a lot of presence and witnessing, like, oh, I knew that I didn't want to go do that thing, but I did it anyways. It wasn't great. That's your intuition talking. Mm-hmm. The first time I really remember my intuition on a conscious level, it happened many times before, but on a conscious level, one of the first times I really remember it happening is I told myself, hey, I'm going to go to the movie theater and I'm going to go to this movie. And the day came around when I said that I was going to go, and I was like, I just don't really want to go to this. But I was like, well, if I don't, then I'm not going to be able to see it in the theater, and I should go. And so I forced myself to go to this movie, and it was awful. It was awful. It was one of the, I think it's the first time I ever thought that I really wanted to just walk out of the theater. But I stayed, probably in punishment of me being like, you said that, you did the thing and here we are, so you got to stick it out. But my intuition told me, like, no, don't go to the movie today. And that's when my ego, my brain started chirping in and being like, well, if you don't go today, you can't, and, blah, blah, blah. And so it's those simple moments of connecting with yourself, of what's most aligned for you. Maybe it's like, oh man, I shouldn't eat that thing because I just have a feeling I'm not going to feel good after, or I shouldn't go to that party, or I shouldn't interact with this person. Like, we know, okay? There are so many times when we pick up on these energies and these signals of, I shouldn't do this, or I should say no to that. But we're like, well, I'm trying to be the good person. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be, giving, so I'm going to do this thing. And then we feel resentful after. We feel bitter after.
Why do you think people would generally behave opposite to what they actually want to do?
Because we're taught that being nice and being loving and, it looks like X, Y, Z. And that to be successful in life, it looks like this. And to be a good partner looks like that. We are told by society what is right and what is wrong, and we stop trusting ourselves. We don't know how to trust ourselves anymore. And so this whole experience that I have gone on and have been awakened to since I wound up in the crisis center has been one of trusting myself again.
That sounds like another huge perspective.
Yeah.
To truly trust yourself.
Yeah, reconnecting with yourself. And knowing that you are on a different journey than everybody else. Everybody's on their own journey, and what yours looks like is very different than anyone else's. And so don't judge yourself for where you are and what you're experiencing, and don't downplay your desires. Don't downplay your needs. If a long time ago, I'm 35 now, I think I was around 27 when I stopped drinking alcohol. And I knew, like, every time I drank alcohol, my body, I just knew it didn't like it. I could feel it. It wasn't even like I had to drink a lot. It was like even just a little bit. I was in tune with that and understood that even when I just have one drink, I don't feel good the next day. I'm not going to drink this anymore. And that alone was challenging because I occasionally would have a drink here or there, but people didn't understand why I wouldn't want to drink. And I'm like, honestly, I've never really enjoyed it. I only have ever done it to fit in. And I don't feel good when I do it. And it was hard because I hung out with a lot of people who did, and they partied. And then I was like, I don't know if I really want to party like this. Like, we're almost all just putting on masks when we're drinking, and I don't really want to put on a mask anymore. I just want to be me, and then I'm showing up being me, and everyone else has a mask on, and it felt so uncomfortable.
Do you think that maybe not even just when people are choosing to drink alcohol, or do you think that people wear masks in life, not just at a drinking event?
100%. I still do. We all still do.
Oh, do we?
I mean, yeah. I think we all have a layer of protection that we have. even when you think that you are, spiritual, you're reconnected with yourself and you're your most authentic self, there is another layer that will open up proving you otherwise. The moment you think you have it all figured out, another layer will appear.
I agree with
that. That is what
that.
I've learned.
I agree. There's always going to be something new that you can learn. But when it comes to a mask versus being or like a mask, I would think, to just elaborate on what that is for anybody who doesn't really understand. A mask is something that you pretend to be instead of expressing your authentic self. Would that be accurate?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're saying that no matter how authentic you think you are, you're going to find a new layer?
Yes. Yeah. Let me ask you, if you have ever held back saying something because you thought it would hurt somebody's feelings, that's a mask.
Are we talking about children?
We're talking about anybody. There's a difference.
You're right.
There is a difference between lashing out at somebody or speaking from a reactive state versus saying something that is very uncomfortable, but saying it from love. So,
Absolutely.
if you're upset with the way someone is speaking to you, it's not really about how they're speaking to you. Isn't have anything to really do with you. It has to do with them and how they're feeling. And for you to be like, I am not okay with you talking to me that way, you're being attached to an expectation and an outcome, and any attachment leads to pain. We would have to dive a little deeper into that because that's a bold statement. But if you then are, okay, this person's mad at me and now it's triggering you, it's like, well, what is it triggering in you? If you're feeling reactive in any way, it means that there is some sort of wound that is wanting to be healed. It could be judgment, it could be control, it could be self-worth, it could be safety, it could be any number of things.
You can't see it, but I'm nodding my head with you because I fully agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. So there's all these things. And so if you were to respond from reaction, that is ego. Okay, that is not your true authentic self.
Hang on, though. This is where I'm going to try to converse with you. If you're responding with reaction, it could still be authentic, even if you haven't brought awareness to the wound creating that reaction. It's still authentic because it's all you know at the time. So it's only inauthentic if you've brought an awareness to it and you're not working on a different outcome.
I see what you're saying, and I kind of agree, yes. But also, I feel like when you're coming from the ego, from reactive nature, you're coming from fear and lack. And that is not your authentic nature as a soul.
It's not your highest potential, that's for sure.
It is conditioning.
Yes.
You have been conditioned to believe that there is separation in that moment, that there is lack, that you need to control something, and you're operating from that state.
Yes, I agree with that.
So therefore, I don't feel like it is it's coming from a wound, not from, which I guess is like your present state. You're like, yeah, this is where I am right now. That's authentic right now to me. So yes, in that case.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get across, just because for anyone who's listening who is like, well, I react like this, that this is all I know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if that's where you are, that is okay. Right?
Mm-hmm,
it doesn't mean
you're
lying, but it could mean that there is work to do and you can learn how to go deeper within your authentic self.
Yes. It's like, there is no shame in where you are in your journey. If you are reacting every second sentence, then that's fine. You are where you are. There's no shame in that. But society would have you believe otherwise. Society will shame you for your reactive nature, for your judgment, for your control.
Even though society is basically a big proponent of why you are conditioned this way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the thing though is, like, if you are shutting down your response to be like, I'm trying not to be angry right now, so I'm not going to say the thing, that is not being authentic.
Correct.
You should be able to express yourself. So what I've gotten really used to is anytime I get reactive, I pause for a second. And if the other person were in the middle of a conversation, sometimes I'll just say, hey, you know what, like I really need to just pause for a moment and just sit with this. And it might only be 30 seconds. I feel like I've been getting pretty good at this. And I can see the root of what's actually happening. But sometimes you might need a day even. Like when I first started doing this work, it was like, yeah, I needed like maybe a day. Sometimes you don't even know for months. Like
no, I used to need 3 months. I used to need 3 months. So I totally understand what that means.
Yeah. And so even with my last breakup, like it's been months since we spoke and a year since we broke up, and I'm still processing and integrating, but that's the journey, that's the process. But if you are shutting down what's true for you in a moment, you're not being authentic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you feel like you're not safe to, or like it's not okay to be angry, that's not authentic. It's okay to experience all of our emotions.
Yeah.
Because here's a perspective shift as well. This is one of the biggest perspective shifts I've had.
Okay, so we went from big to bigger and biggest.
Yep. This actually, I think, is the biggest perspective shift, is that nothing in life is inherently good or bad.
Yes.
We are the ones who give it meaning.
Yes.
Because without quote unquote bad experiences, we don't know what good even is. Like, if you never experienced sadness, do you really think you would understand what happiness is? If happiness was the only emotion, you wouldn't understand what it even was.
Yeah.
So life is full of this contrast.
And it needs the contrast or else we can't see.
Yes. So we experience all of it, so that we know what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And so we can cultivate and create more of what we do want. So I also just want to state that, like, it's not to say that the things that we call negative are not good. They play a role, and they're not to be like feared or like, oh, I'm trying to run away from all the negativity. No, that's spiritual bypassing. It's okay to experience the negativity. It has a role and a place in helping us understand more deeply the positive things in life, helping us understand love and joy and abundance. It plays a very huge role in understanding light.
Yes, the light cannot be seen without the darkness, and the darkness cannot be seen without the light.
100%.
So with that perspective that there truly is no good and no evil, what is the biggest impact that's had on your life?
You know, this is actually one of the most challenging things, is seeing really not so good things happen in the world. People are starving, there's war, there's abuse, there's all sorts of things happening. And it's not to say that those things aren't bad. You know, you call them bad.
Maybe it's not to say that they're not worth pursuing alternative paths for. They're not.
It's just like when you realize that those things are actually there to create tension and pressure to help us understand the opposite of it, and you know that it has purpose. But yeah, of course it doesn't feel good to be in an abusive relationship. Of course it's terrible that people are starving and that there's war. And like, yes, it is terrible. And that's the whole point of experiencing that, so we can learn and do better. And it's like, you know, they talk about heaven on earth. Well, that's the whole point, is
to experience heaven on earth.
To experience unconditional love and connection in our physical experience of life as humans. Because energetically, that is, the Creator is an endless source of love. And we are connected to that. We are that by nature. But we came here kind of forgetting our true nature. And so we're trying to remember.
Yeah.
And it's all about that free will. Like, do you want to experience more love, or do you want to sit in fear? And here's the one thing that was really interesting to me. It sounds easy. It's like, well, you have free will. Do I want to experience, you know, love and joy, or do I want to experience anxiety and depression? Well, let me tell you something. When I had anxiety and depression, I tried everything. Okay, I already said I was in therapy for years. I was doing yoga and meditation and journaling and, exercise supplement. I even tried so many supplements. They talk about like ashwagandha and GABA and magnesium, all these things.
Mm.
And it's like mind over matter. Your thoughts create your reality. So just have better thoughts. And I'm like, yeah, I did that. It didn't work. It is not enough to just mind over matter all the time. And what I realized with the energy work is that literally, if you have this backlog of energy and it has created this new baseline for you, it is very, very hard to overcome that with just mindset work. And that is why I do what I do. That's why I do the mentorship and the energy work, because both of them are so incredibly powerful and important. Mm-hmm. We can even do energy work to clear the backlog of stuff. But if you're going to stay in the toxic relationship, if you're going to stay in a job that you hate, if you're going to stay in the same level of consciousness where you don't understand why people are acting the way that they do or why you're acting the way that you do,
or why you're attracting that scenario into your life.
Yeah, like what's the lesson behind that? Then you're going to continue attracting that stuff. The energy work helps kind of like release the backlog and gives you more free will, because now you're not stuck in those vibrations.
And then you
have to make the decision to honor yourself, to follow what's aligned for you. And that is not staying in the relationship, with somebody who isn't loving or understanding. It's all a spectrum too, though. It's like, it's not to be like, oh, I'm just going to blow everybody off who doesn't treat me like I'm a god. No, that's not the situation either.
Yeah.
You have to become the version of you that you want to attract in other people. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, wow, all these people are judgmental, I don't like that. It's like, okay, well, where are you being judgmental?
Yes.
Maybe you're not judgmental to other people, but maybe you're judgmental to yourself.
That's exactly it. Yep.
And so everything happening around you is a mirror in some way, and learning to witness that and shift your energy and shift from judgment, even self-judgment, of like compassion, or not trying to solve everybody's problem, not feeling like you have to fix everything, and not feeling like you have to control every situation, and letting people have their process. I really love this perspective too. A friend of mine was telling me not long ago, she's like, it's kind of like when your kids are learning how to get dressed for the first time, and they're
bumbling and bumbling
backwards. Yeah, they got two legs in one pant hole and their shirt's on backwards, and you're just like, you want to help them so bad. You're like, let me just do it for you. It'd be so much easier. I know how many times have you thought that, of like, you're watching somebody struggle to do something. You're like, I just want to do this for you. It'd be so much easier. It'd be so much faster. But in doing that, you are taking away their opportunity for growth.
Yes.
It is in the struggle that we grow, and we need to stop trying to do everything for everybody and allow them to have their process. Be there, sit there with them. You got this.
So true.
You can even help them, be like, well, I know you know how to figure this out. Like, you can do this. You could do this before. If you need help, you ask. You just ask for help. It's all good. Like encouragement and love and support, but not actually doing it for them.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, they'll never be able to do it on their own.
And that's the goal, right? For myself, even as a coach, I want to give you tools and understandings, and then you don't need me anymore.
Yes, 100%.
To that point. I do have a question for you, though. If you could give one piece of advice for those who are in a similar situation to what you've described in your past, when you didn't know any different except for where you were, what would be one piece of advice that you would be able to give them that you think could help catapult their discoveries and healing journeys?
I think the biggest thing I would say is to just get curious, to stop believing that you have it all figured out, or that you should have it all figured out, and that you should know what to do, and get curious.
Get curious.
Sit in the silence and get curious. Stop trying to do this, that, and, we get so muddled with all the different to-do lists and, oh, well, this person said that, this kind of therapy should work and that journaling and this kind of journaling or this book is going to help you and change your entire life. And it's like, I've read all the books, okay? A lot of them are saying the same things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the book. It's a message. A message will come to you whenever you're ready to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be open and curious.
So be silent, be open, be curious.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to sit with yourself. So many people, it's like they don't want to sit still.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting still for 10 minutes makes them uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I will tell you, it is in the stillness that you will find your answers.
That's amazing.
When you sit still, the emotions come to the surface. When you sit still, the ego comes up. And if you are still enough, you can witness your ego. You can witness the thoughts that are sabotaging you. You can also connect with the endless source of energy that exists in the universe. And awareness and insight will come through that will help bring a level of consciousness where you have more understanding for why things are happening the way that they're happening. And when you stop resisting your pain, you no longer suffer. Pain is just part of the process. It is a thing,
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you're trying to get away from or escape anymore. You recognize the beauty in the pain, and that's freedom.
I like it. Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us today. Your story and the work you're doing is so important. And I believe that I was talking to myself earlier. I've been doing this a lot because I'm working on my own public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this thought that, there's this industry of self-help and this industry of coaches. And, my ego starts to worry, it's so many people out there. Who am I to put a dot in the sand? Like, who am I going to help? But I think the reality is, somebody had said this, I don't know who said it, but your desire to do good in the world is an echo of the people waiting for you. And that really struck with me because while there's so many other fortunate people to be working in this industry and service, there's also, I think, a larger portion of people that are actually needing the service.
Yeah.
Right?
That was so beautifully said. Your desire is not for nothing. It has been given to you. It is there for a purpose and a reason. And it is simply our journey to follow that desire and what lights us up in service of others. I think that is so beautiful. I can completely resonate. I've had that thought myself. Like, oh, why me? There's so many other people doing it. Why don't they just go follow
why
this
do I
person
have
or
this
that
too?
person? Yeah. It's like, why don't they just follow all these big names where I get my wisdom from? And it's like, because nobody has your experience in life.
Yes.
Nobody has the lens that you carry with you, the perspective that you have with you. And how you say it to somebody will be different than everybody else. And yes, it could be that precise, exact sentence that they need to hear.
Exactly. And I've experienced that myself with the several people that I've listened to. And one guy says one thing one way, another guy says the exact same thing, but just a slightly different way. And then it's like, boom, oh, that's what I needed to hear today, right? So,
yes.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate your story and everything that you're doing. And if anybody wanted to get a hold of you, do you have any ways that they could?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at kelsey.clevett. It's KELSEY.CLEVETT. And my website is kelseyclevett.com. And those are the two places right now to get in contact and to follow me. I share lots of perspectives, shifts, and insight on my social media. It's my favorite thing. And just, sharing this unraveling of conditioning and of ego that I'm going through. I'm on the journey, the same as everybody else. I don't know what I'm doing, but I think that's the fun in it, is that I'm surrendered and learning alongside everybody else. And the more we share, the more we learn, the more we grow, the more we get to just embody unconditional love.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.